Hi guys. Okay, so I know that I have not been on YouTube for a little over a week. Um, Thursday of last week, the 28th of June, I ended up getting a surgery. So, as you can see, no more nasal tube. I now have this tube here. Um, it got placed on the 28th. It was listed as basically an emergency surgery, and it was really rather difficult to go through. Um, a lot of the pain was like super, super bad. So, hold on a second, I'm trying to find something. Well, anyhow, so they put 3 anchors in that surprisingly looked like balloons. So when I got discharged the next day, and like my plate, meaning this plastic piece here, was actually sewn to me, um, that hurt more than anything, having that sewn to me, because I am a rather large girl. To put it mildly, I'm around 150 pounds. So it hurt immensely. I ended up going to my family doctor the following Monday, and he snipped the stitches for that to give me some type of relief. And one of my anchors fell off 2 days ago, which I found was kind of surprising because, like, nobody had ever shown a video talking about when their anchors around their feeding tube came off. My next appointment isn't for like 2 months as well with my GI doctor, so it has not been good. But I had originally had my feeding rate at 37, and I was doing okay. I was able to get, at that time, I was able to get 2 of these in. They are 12 ounces, like 300 something mLs of formula in at 60% water. So the nutritionalist put me on IVs. So I have my IV going into my port. Well, not port, PICC line. Trying to get a port, which is rather difficult right now. I'm going through a company called BioScript for the IVs. Unfortunately, my insurance company keeps like fighting with them on deciding not to pay and stuff like that, so I had to call to switch my insurances, which turned into a headache all in of itself. So it's been a little over a week that I've had the tube. I'm still definitely learning, like, things that I never thought I would. Like, I did research, and I mean, like, tons and tons of research on feeding tubes and things like that and everything. They gave me a GJ tube so that, say things backed up into my stomach, I could drain, things like that. And thankfully, since I was draining, was being the keyword, I have not had to take nausea meds in 5 days, which is amazing because I used to take nausea meds at least 4 times a day. On really bad days, up to 6 times a day. In the middle of the night, I'd wake up and have to take meds. So it's amazing to not have to take them. Unfortunately, even though the doctors are telling me to use the G tube for my medication, my stomach, because of my gastric paresis, seems to like try and push it out the tube. So I will literally be walking around with like a leaky feeding tube, which is the oddest thing because For some reason, the G-tube, when you put the cap on it, doesn't close all the way. So I'll show you my tubes. So this is my gastric tube, and it only has this little stopper. Don't feel like leaking. No, don't leak. No. Okay, and then my jejunum tube has this big stopper. So I have my feeding tube attached here, and I'm wearing my bag because I'm using the IV pole that I have. Instead of for my feeding tube, I have it holding my IV bag up because my IV is gravity fed. Now, on my Instagram, Smith's Dawn, I put up a picture of this cool little device. So basically, what you do is you spike your bag like how you normally would, and then you dial this to your prescribed amount. Mine's 250, and then you just let gravity take over and give you your IV fluids, which is amazing to not have to have another pump. Absolutely love it. Unfortunately, there's different times where my body tries to reject the fluids, and I'm not sure if it's really my body trying to reject them or if it's my PICC line, because when I was in the hospital, my PICC line got pulled out a little bit, and my nurse from BioScript, who comes out every week to change my bandages, had to, we basically had to like rig it. So it was just a bit much trying to get all of it taken care of, but we got it working on the most part, and it just sometimes takes a little longer than like 2 hours to run 500 mLs of fluid, which honestly is not that much, thank God. But about 4 days ago, no, Tuesday of last week, my stomach started draining out my feeds. Like, anytime I put anything in me, it was just coming right out through the gastric tube. And if I didn't drain, I was having immense pain and discomfort, like to the point where I was almost in tears. So, found out that I couldn't go to the bathroom and had to then take medicine to make me go to the bathroom. Thankfully, it worked. If it didn't work, I was going to have to go to the hospital and get an x-ray of my intestine to see if I had a blockage. Thankfully, it worked, but now my feeds were dropped down to 10, and then I've been increasing them by 5 when I'm having a good day. So, like, right now, I think they're at 20? Yeah, they're at 20 right now, so it's been a long and difficult road. I honestly never expected to have so much discomfort at the tube site. It's not really because of the tube. For some odd reason, my body is having difficulties dealing with the stitches. Like, that's my body's problem, is the stitches. So I'm glad at least one of the anchors fell out. I'm waiting for the other two to just kind of like drop out. I am using Tubi pads, which by all means, Tubi pads are a lifesaver. I do have gauze as well for like any type of like major leakage, but thankfully, because of the skill of the surgeons I had at Temple Hospital and them kind of preparing me in a way, and the research that I did kind of saved me a lot of difficulties. Although trying to find a comfortable way to sleep has been really hard. Like, I just could not figure it out at all. I toss and turn most of the night. I am on an elevated pillow because I do have to run my feeds during the night just to try and make sure that I'm getting enough. Which, for somebody my size, when this was all starting, it took a lot to get doctors to actually understand there was something wrong with me. Because they looked at my size and they were like, oh no, you're a chunky girl. You could stand to lose some weight. And it was because I just kept having an allergy attack after allergy attack. When I had the nasal tube in, we went through 3 formulas till we found the Nourish, which works, because of how many allergies I had. And the poor ER in my town, oh goodness gracious. I went there a lot to deal with this because I couldn't get down to Temple. And the first time I was completely ignored and was treated very disrespectfully. So I actually called the director of the ER. I explained to them the situation. I explained to them how an allergic reaction presents in me is usually like the sore throat where I can't talk. And then I'll feel the swelling, but you can't see the swelling because of how stretchy everything is in my body because of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So the next time I was having an allergic reaction and I went in, I thankfully had a nurse practitioner who knew me and knew that I barely touch anything that I shouldn't. And we quickly discovered that it was an allergic reaction. I asked for Benadryl. I did not ask for any pain meds, even though I was in excruciating pain, because because I can only have morphine, I have to save up when I can use that and get that. And after this tube surgery and I got released from the hospital, they didn't phase me down off of the morphine, and I was in such excruciating pain, and the anchors looked like the balloon. I thought something was wrong, so I went to my local ER. They put the glowing stuff, I guess, whatever the glowing stuff is, the C. They checked that to see the tube is there. But they only put it down my jejunum tube. They didn't put it down my gastric tube, I guess because they wanted to make sure they could see everything. And my tube was still good, but the night before I was released, one of the nurses was helping me onto a bedpan because I'm wheelchair bound. And they basically ended up making me do a sit-up. Never in my life had I ever thought doing a sit-up was going to be painful. But it was so painful. And I thought I really did some damage. It was that type of painful. So at my local ER, they gave me 1 dose of morphine. And a dose for me, if I'm in a lot of pain but know I can get through it, I won't ask for it. If I'm in a lot of pain and I'm not sure how I'm going to survive it, it's usually a 1 on the syringe. I don't remember their syringes measurements. And then after surgery, it's either 3 or 4. And I chose to only do a 3 because I did not want to have too much medicine in my system, for starters, and 2, I know exactly how hard it is to receive morphine in the ER when you're chronically ill and you have allergies that they tend to not believe that you have, and I've been put into anaphylactic shock quite a few times because people thought that they could give me something like Tylenol 800 or Tylenol with codeine, and I am allergic. to Tylenol, and I'm deathly allergic to codeine. Codeine, I go into anaphylactic shock like nobody's business, as well as soy and all that other stuff. But so they got that straightened out. Now, being home and still attempting to like figure out things and stuff like that, I've like watched YouTube videos and things like that, and it has been one of the loneliest like things. Like, you really don't hear a lot of people talking about what it's like when they first get a tube. Like, oh yeah, you'll see the, aftermath of surgery, and then, the next thing you know, it's a couple weeks down the line, and they're doing fine and thriving on their tube and everything else. And unfortunately, that's not what happened with me. I didn't have like a total body rejection. It was more along the lines of like, I had stitches ripped through my skin. I had anchors do weird things. I had mucousy discharge on top of my skin that I would clean up with like a Q-tip every morning, and my 2B pad would absorb a lot of it. But I found out that like the compression thing that they gave me at the hospital to wear right after surgery, oh my gosh, does that make a difference? I have it like just on the bottom anchor of my tube. I don't have it over like my actual hose line. I don't think I could stand that. But having it right there at the bottom makes it that I can sleep. And so it's rather helpful to have that. But other than that, like, it's been hard. After the first week, I'm starting to get used to like my body's reaction to things. Like, I can move certain ways and things like that. I cannot twist, I cannot turn, things like that. And I'm just like, I'm losing so much weight that I need to figure out like some way to not lose muscle mass and do some exercises. And for the longest time, I couldn't find anybody who had a tube who did exercises. And then I watched a show called Born Different on Facebook. And they showed a girl with a tube named Hannah. And she does fitness. That has been a life changer for me, because seeing somebody else with a tube being able to be exercising and showing exercises that don't hurt, they don't like feel weird to the tube. Yeah, you can feel it move, but it doesn't really do any type of painful things. That has been one of the greatest things that I found. And it's helped me out a lot. So I just figured, if I couldn't find information on like how long anchors are supposed to stay in, I might as well start talking about it, because I've only had one of my 3 anchors fall off a week after surgery. I'm waiting to see how long the other ones take to fall off. And I know normally right around day 14 is when my body starts like pushing sutures out more. So I know I'm going to have more pain next week, but I know it's my body's way of healing. And it's because I've taken the time to understand my body, deal with the many odd, strange emergency surgeries that I've had to have as well. So the best advice I can give to anybody is know your body, Understand the equipment that you are given, and don't be afraid to ask questions of your doctors, because that's what they're there for. They're supposed to give you answers, direct you in the right way to do things, and be able to assist you in care. And that's what, a good doctor or nurse will do. Unfortunately, in the hospital, I will tell you, most nurses only know how to use a feeding tube to give somebody nutrition. They don't know anything about the equipment. They usually don't know like what the estimated time is that you'll be feeling a certain way, because everybody's different. And they also, most of the time, unless you have like somebody who's experienced in it, they don't understand what it's like to have this type of surgery happen. So always talking to your doctors, keeping them informed, whether it's emailing them or like I called, I emailed, and I left a message for my nutritionalist who I normally deal with as well. And I had a nurse who comes out to the house for my PICC line. I even talked to him about what was happening, because his company does the feeding tube feeds as well. And with that, I've been able to be more comfortable in my care, be present in the situations that I'm going through, where I don't just jump to a conclusion or jump to a new fear, or am constantly waiting for that other shoe to drop. Although I do know that it's there lingering in the background, I do my best to not focus on it. So that's basically what's been happening since my emergency tube surgery, because my nasal tube fell out. So hopefully it will help somebody else. And that's pretty much it for right now. I think I will try and make a video whenever each of my anchors fall off and stuff like that. I'll either make a video or make a notation of it and stuff like that, and talk about it in another video, to make sure that, if somebody else is going through this, that they know, a pretty reasonable time. I honestly thought my anchor fell out a little too early, but I also know how my body reacts to stitches and how it rejects them. So it's one of those things for me. But hopefully this will help somebody else out. All right, bye.